One winter's night, when the cold wind blew, the engines found it hard to sleep. Driver told me a story. Once upon a time, there were 3 little engines who lived in their own little shed on their own little railway. Duke, Stuart, and Falcon. He was proud of this and loved to keep the little engines in order. Whenever they did anything that Duke thought wrong, that would never suit his grace. Stuart and Falcon used to call him Granpuff. Sometimes they would tease him and chant, "Engines come, engines go, Granpuff goes on forever." Well, you'd better mind, unless you want to end up like Smudger. Whatever happened, Smudger was a show-off and often came off the rails. Who worries about a few spills? He turned him into a generator. He'll never move again. After that, Stuart and Falcon became really useful engines, and all 3 were happy together and the railway was closed too. People came to buy the engines. Well, take Stuart and Falcon. No one wanted Duke. They thought him too old. Cheer up, Granpuff. We'll find you a nice railway, and then you can come and keep us in order. Duke's driver and fireman oiled and greased him one last time. I'll go to sleep. It'll help pass the time. Trees and bushes grew all around. You wouldn't have known a shed was there, let alone a little engine asleep inside. But Duke was never forgotten. Until one day not long ago, visitors came to see the Fat Controller. We want to find Duke and make him happy again. There's a sign for the old station. If Duke's anywhere, he's there. Everyone set off to the mountains far away. The days went by and the search grew harder, but the rescuers wouldn't give up. Let's go this way. But there was still no sign of Duke. They scrambled over hills and struggled over ditches. At last, their search ended. We found him! Excuse me, are you a vandal? Bless you, no. Falcon and Stuart will be pleased to see you. So they did remember, sighed Duke happily. Then they all set off to Duke's new home. Stuart and Falcon were ready with a big welcome. He's here. You woke me up. In my young days, engines were seen and not heard, Granpuff. We know. We're glad you've come back. And for the first time in years, he smiled as he dozed in the sun. And that is the whole story, especially the happy ending. And soon they were all asleep too. One morning, Percy was impatient. Driver should be here by now. And Duke is not here to save you. Duke, Driver told me the story. And this is the story. They worked with Duke on his old railway. Falcon still had a lot to learn. Falcon, now you must learn a difficult part of the line. Yes, please, sir. So tomorrow, when you have a new coat of paint, you will go on it. Duke will explain everything. The next day came. The mountain road is difficult. I'll leave. No! How can I learn the route with you lumbering ahead and blocking the view? But never mind the view. The engines set off. Never mind the view. Fusspot, fusspot. Don't dawdle, don't dawdle. No hurry, puffed Duke. Soon they approached a tunnel. I want to get out. One moment, everything seemed safe. Then suddenly, Falcon was derailed and hung dangerously over the edge. Stop shaking, he called. Then came more trouble. Water! Luckily, there was a workman's cottage nearby, filled with water until Duke's thirst was quenched. Then they started off once more. The manager was waiting at the top station. He apologized for the accident. Your Duke is a hero. Thank you for saving me, Duke. I don't know why you bothered after I'd been so rude. It would have been a pity if you'd have rolled down the mountain and spoilt it. This is a story about him. Many people came year after year to see the mountains and the lakes. And most of all, Duke. He always pulled his train, even on days when he didn't feel well. Beep, beep. Please be ready when I come back for you. One day, Duke didn't feel well when Stuart bustled in. Are you short of puff? Nothing of the sort. We must take care of you in case you break down. That'll be the day. It was a lovely evening. Couldn't be better, couldn't be better. But soon, his valves were leaking steam. But I'll manage. At last, they reached the station. 2 engines are coming to help. You'll still catch your boat. This is the day! And away they went. When they reached the next station, Falcon took Duke's passengers to the boat. Stuart headed Falcon's train with Duke coupled behind. Poor old engine, poor old engine! But Duke still had plenty of steam left in him. He and his driver had their own little joke ready. Now! Duke puffed and roared as though he was pushing the whole train's weight before him. When they reached the last station, everyone cheered. What happened? Stuart broke down. Duke had to help him. Duke and his driver's joke had worked. Fiddlesticks! It's no good, Stuart. You can't win. If you should visit a place that has a lake in the woods and a beautiful waterfall, Scarloey and Rheneas. There are 2 more engines, Sir Handel and Peter Sam. One day, the fat controller sent Edward to the works to be mended. It's Scarloey. What's he doing here? I've been sent here for a rest. I wish I could be mended too and pull coaches again. Your railway is a lovely line. Meanwhile, Sir Handel was having trouble with some coaches. Some careless sheep had strayed onto the line. He's bumped us! Let's pay him out! They surged into Sir Handel and pushed him off the rails. How are we going to pull the visitors' train without an engine? What about me, sir? And their journey began. Scarloey remembered all the gates and stiles where he had to stop. This is lovely! Presently the line grew steep. Scarloey felt short of steam. Take your time! But it wasn't. His springs were weak and the rail joints jarred his wheels. I feel all crooked. We'll need a bus now for our passengers. No, I'll get them to the station or burst. James was waiting at the platform. Clanging and clanking, Scarloey steamed in. I've done it. And that's what's going to happen to you. You deserve it. Scarloey and Rheneas work on the railway that weaves round the lakes and mountainsides. The engines will never let their passengers down, but they are old and tire more easily. Their drivers understood this. The manager is sending 2 more engines to help us run the line. When Sir Handel and Peter Sam arrived, what a small shed. What's that rubbish? I'm sorry, Scarloey. Scarloey felt sorry for Peter Sam. Now, Sir Handel, I will get you ready for work. I'm tired. No. Sir Handel puffed away to fetch his coaches. Those aren't coaches, they're cattle trucks. It's not what I'm used to. Thanks, Sir Handel. He rolled to the platform just as Gordon arrived. Hello, who are you? I'm Gordon. I've heard of you. You're an express engine. I see you do. We must keep time, you know. Gordon was speechless. Clouds of steam filled the air as Sir Handel huffed and puffed along the line. He was still cross when they reached the top station. Sir Handel was hoping for a rest, but his driver thought otherwise, and fetched some trucks from the quarry. Trucks! I won't, so there! Sir Handel was about to cause a great deal of trouble. Told you! By the time the workmen came to rescue him, I shall talk to you later. When Sir Handel crawled home, he found the fat controller waiting for him. I hope I can trust you to behave when you next come out of this shed. I'm sure Sir Handel will, aren't you? Peter Sam was now busier than ever. He was very excited. Keep calm, Peter Sam, and you'll do well. But Peter Sam was in such a state that he couldn't listen. When Peter Sam finally fussed into the station, "This won't do, youngster. If you are late tonight, I'll go off and leave your passengers behind." Peter Sam puffed happily away, singing a little song. I'm Peter Sam, I'm running this line. Every afternoon they had to wait an hour at the station by the lake. The station has a little shop selling refreshments. Buy tea and cakes from the refreshment lady. The waiting was over, and Peter Sam was sizzling with impatience. Hurry up, please! How awful, he thought, if we miss Henry's train. Then it happened. Stop! You've left the refreshment lady behind. The refreshment lady climbed aboard and they started again. He hurried along the line as fast as his wheels and his driver would let him. They arrived at the big station just in time. Hooray! But the refreshment lady was still cross. What do you mean by leaving me behind? I'm sorry, refreshment lady, but Henry said he might leave without... He wouldn't have gone without our passengers. He's a guaranteed connection. But Henry had chortled away. The lakes and mountains have many visitors. Then Harold noticed something. Who are you? I'm Rusty. Don't recall seeing you before. Cheers and keep up the good work. Chicky chopper. Even so, Sir Handel wouldn't stop grumbling. No one understands our feelings. Now, if you were ill, you couldn't shunt truck. I don't feel well. There wasn't time to examine him, so some of his trucks were coupled behind Peter Sam's coaches. Soon, they reached the quarry where the trucks were needed. Empty trucks at the bottom of the slope, loaded trucks run down the steep slope, pulling the empty ones up. Peter Sam duly waited at the bottom of the slope for the loaded trucks. But the loaded trucks couldn't see him properly. They thought he was Sir Handel. Faster! Faster, they yelled. No, no, it's Peter Sam. Beep, beep. Rusty was working nearby and came to help clear up the mess. I'm sorry about your accident, said Sir Handel. You can start thinking now while you're doing Peter Sam's work as well as your own. Sir Handel did start thinking about Gordon. Rusty set off along the line. Splendid to see you again, whizzed Harold. I'm completing my evening's lookabout. Well done. Keep up the good work. And the little diesel purred back home. Scarloey had been to the works to be mended. Scarloey hadn't met the little diesel before. I hear everyone is looking forward to seeing you again. Come on. Peter Sam was feeling depressed. The Fat Controller wouldn't let him. Besides, I've got a surprise for you. Wait and see. The surprise was Scarloey. I'm glad you've come home. Now, tell me all the news. So do I, replied Peter Sam. It's a pity Duncan doesn't. But he's bouncy and rude. He sings and sways and swills around. His driver calls it rock and roll. His driver interrupted. Duncan has done it again. He's stuck in a tunnel. Scarloey was pleased. He wanted to run and looked forward to meeting Duncan. How nice and smooth the rails are. They've mended all the old bumps. Quite soon they found Duncan. He was stuck at the far end of the tunnel. This railway is no good at all. It took some while to clear away the rocks and set Duncan free again. At last, Scarloey was able to push Duncan and his coaches safely through. Duncan grumbled all the way home, but Scarloey paid no attention. Later, the Fat Controller spoke severely to Duncan. Tunnels are not dance floors, and you are not a pop star. In other words, your career is on the line. Need I say more? And he remained completely silent and still for at least a whole evening. Scarloey, the little engine, loves all the sights and sounds along his line and knows them very well. Along the way, he met Rusty. I think I was on a different railway. You've done wonders with these rails. I'm glad you're pleased. Scarloey liked this hard-working diesel. There's still one bad bit just before the first station, particularly Duncan. I shouldn't like his passengers. Quit about me. Rusty warned Duncan about the bad bit of line. I don't need smelly diesels to tell me what to do. Rusty felt hurt. James was already there, waiting for him. One crept into our yard and ordered us about. I soon sent him packing. Duncan was filled with admiration. Send Rusty packing, send Rusty packing. Soon they were near the first station. Nothing's happened, silly old diesel. And he rocked and he rolled along the line. But it was too late. Sleepers and ballast. I warned him, said Rusty. But all he did was call me names. Think of the passengers. What are they going to do? They carefully levered Duncan. After that, Duncan was extra careful all day. At last, evening came. Thank you for helping. That's all right, Duncan. I wish all diesels were like you. Let's be friends. We'll mend that bad bit of rail first thing tomorrow. It was winter on the island of Sodor. His funnel had never been the same since his accident with some trucks. I wish manager would hurry up with my new one. He says it will be something special. The rain came too, turning hillside streams into torrents which threatened to wash the line away. But one morning, Rusty's driver brought bad news. There's been a washout near the tunnel. We must repair the damage immediately. The important work took longer than expected. It became frosty and much colder. Peter Sam was most careful as he took the morning train over the mended piece of track. Soon, he approached the tunnel. Peter Sam was heading for trouble. There's something hanging from the roof, shouted his driver. Peter Sam came out of the tunnel, a different-looking engine, and he produced a thick, cold icicle. Then his fireman saw an old drain pipe lying beside the track. At least it'll help control the smoke. Peter Sam finished his journey with the drain pipe wired to his boiler. The other engines laughed and Sir Handel sang a song about it. Now his famous new funnel's a drain. Until at last the day came when his new funnel arrived. This funnel is something special indeed. Peter Sam's new funnel had special pipes which made puffing much easier. I feel stronger than ever before. The engines don't laugh at Peter Sam's funnel now. They wish they had one like it. Sir Handel is very proud of his big sturdy wheels. One day, the other engines wouldn't stop teasing him. Look at his steamroller wheels. You're jealous. I can go faster than any of you. You're just the engine to tackle George. Railways are no good. Pull them up, turn them into roads. Don't worry. Leave him to me. I'll send him packing. Later that morning, George was at the level crossing. I suppose a George, yes. I've heard of you. And I've heard of you. You swank around with your steamroller wheels pretending you're as good as... Actually, I'm better. Goodbye. Chuffed on, fuming. Later that day, Sir Handel brought a special load down after the last train had gone. He saw George trundling home. Sir Handel was cross. Get out of my way, you great clumsy road dog. I don't move for imitation steamrollers. Then there was trouble. Oh, that was your fault. No, it wasn't. What's going on here? They set to work clearing up the mess instead. Next day, the workmen put up a fence between the road and the railway, taking George with them. He talked of nothing but steamrollers. He's worse than ever. I'm sorry my plan was no good. Some boys arrived instead. They pointed to the engine and cried, he tried to race a steamroller, but the steamroller nearly beat him. Sir Handel never mentions steamrollers now. Nancy is a guard's daughter. One day she was working on Scarloey with some polish and a rag. He was thinking about his friend Rheneas and all the good times they had shared together before Rheneas went away to be mended. Nancy interrupted again. Don't you want to look nice for when Rheneas comes home? What? When? Soon, Daddy told me. Duncan was jealous. Aren't you going to polish me too? Sorry, not today. It isn't fair. Duncan enjoyed complaining. He became sulkier still. That afternoon there was bad news from up the line. All this extra work, grumbled Duncan. Duncan shunted the works train into the sidings and left the workmen to sort out the mess. Then he brought the passengers and the rear coaches home. I get no rest, I get no rest. Duncan made the journey very difficult in the hope of raising more. We'll keep our passengers waiting. You always think about the passengers and never about me. At last, they reached the viaduct near the station. One more effort and you'll have a rest and a drink at the station. Keep your old station. I'm staying here. Scarloey had to haul Duncan and his train all the way to the platform. The passengers were furious. No passengers means no polish. No polish means no passengers. He still has a lot to learn, doesn't he? Duncan would not stop grumbling. Most of all, he grumbled about the passengers. I'm ashamed of you, Duncan. Thank goodness Rheneas is coming home soon. What has Rheneas to do with me? Rheneas saved our railway. It was before you came here. Rheneas and I had to keep the trains running, or our railway would have to close. He was often short of steam, but he always struggled to a station and rested there. Sure, huffed Duncan. Rheneas stopped in a wrong place once, and this is what happened. One wet and windy afternoon when the rails were damp, Rheneas was travelling home with a full train. Rheneas's wheels kept slipping. At last, his wheels gripped the rails again. The worst is over. Ah! I've got cramp! Your valve gear has jammed. Do you think you can still get us there? I'll try, replied Rheneas. Rheneas did his best. And another, and another. Finally, tired but triumphant, Rheneas reached the station. I'm here at last, he wheezed. Thank you for getting us home. You're a gallant little engine. And Rheneas was always ready for tomorrow. Thank you for telling us about him. The next day, Rheneas came home. All the engines were there to greet him. This helps a little engine to feel that at last he has really come home. In springtime, Rusty loves to visit a faraway place. It's filled with bluebells. Excuse me, said Rusty. They need another engine to help run this special line. A bluebell engine. Maybe I can find one. Later, Rusty saw Douglas and Percy. Where you found Oliver? You mean I'm looking for a bluebell engine. But these days it's only diesels that go there. So that's where I'll go. Take care, warned Douglas. Darkness fell and the cold wind blew. Silent and still, lined up on guard. Who are you? I'm a shed and sidings inspection diesel. Then, what about the sidings? One. A small engine with a tall funnel stood sad and alone in the shadowy siding. Do you like bluebells? Bluebells are beautiful. Past the bleak and brooding line of diesels. Where is he going? Just down the line, replied Rusty. We've done it! Mission accomplished! When Rusty and the engine arrived in the valley, a big welcome awaited them. I wouldn't be here if it weren't for Rusty. His name is Stepney, but everyone calls him the Bluebell Engine. Thomas the Tank Engine was feeling very happy. My branch line is the pride of the line. Well, there is another engine with a famous branch line too. Who? Where? His name's Stepney. He's far away, but the Fat Controller says he may visit us. Meanwhile, Stepney was puffing purposefully along his line. Later, he saw Rusty. Everyone's been so kind, but my railway is so short. That evening, Stepney's driver had exciting news. Manager agreed. It'll be a really long run to get there. Oh, thank you. They set off next morning. By now, all the other engines were talking about Stepney. He runs a famous branch line. Here he comes. I hope you'll meet Thomas too. You both have branch lines to be proud of. At last, Thomas arrived. Sorry, can't talk. It's time for my last branch line train. He was hardly out of sight when the engines heard shouting at the station. A special, is it? I see. We're being shunted to allow another train to pass. Soon, they heard an unfamiliar puffing sound. There was Stepney with headlamps swaying and whistle blowing. He gathered speed and disappeared. But my boiler! Next morning, Thomas was still fuming. I'm sorry. An important passenger ordered a special train, but it can make an engine nervous not to know the line. Exactly. He couldn't be cross anymore and instead began telling Stepney all about his branch line. Stepney the Bluebell Engine was busy talking to the other engines. Then you have a quarry and a mine, so you need plenty of trucks. Trucks are fun. Percy was surprised. You're welcome to take some of mine, he said. Thomas and Toby were speechless. Stepney took the trucks to the harbour. Ahead was a cricket field. Stepney and his driver had to wait at a signal. We can watch the game. The batsman hit the ball. It flew high into the sky. Thump! Stop! But Stepney didn't hear them. Wake up, Caroline! The chase is on! Stepney wasn't hurrying. Soon came up behind him. Toot! Toot! They completely misunderstood. If those jokers want a race, faster, Stepney! Poor Caroline wasn't happy at all. She rattled along at twice her usual speed. It'll fuse all my circuits! Suddenly, Stepney was nowhere to be seen. I can go home now. Driver pounded Caroline on up the steep hill. Stepney was already there when Caroline clottered in. We need our ball back. The ball was in the third truck from the van. We found it. Caroline looks worn out. The players crowded inside and Stepney pulled the train back to the playing field. Everyone enjoyed watching the game. They have their uses, she says. They can save the wear on a poor car's wheels. Stepney's visit to the Fat Controller's Railway was coming to an end. We shall miss you. Then he turned his attention to all the other engines. A diesel is all that's available. What does that mean? The diesel surveyed the shed. But your controller should scrap you and get engines like me. Next morning, they held an indignation meeting round the turntable. Disgraceful. Disgusting. Despicable to say such things to us. The chance came sooner than expected. The wind tugged at the inspector's hat. Look at me, Duck and Stepney. Now I'll show you something. Shaking and spluttering, the diesel stopped. The diesel seethed with fury as Duck and Stepney pushed him back to the shed. My hat! Bother your hat. You'll have to take it, Duck. Stepney, will you help, please? I'd like a good long run on my last day. And out to the open line. Now for a sprint. I'm ready when you are. Soon they were whizzing through Edward Station. They felt the drag of the heavy coaches here. It was hard work. At last, they were running smoothly along the line towards the big station. That's one in the headlamp for old Diesel. James says he's sick as boiler sludge and sulking in the shed. Next day, everyone came to say goodbye to Stepney. And you are always welcome on my Bluebell Railway too. Then he puffed away. And what about Diesel? He'd slipped out whilst no one was looking. A rather nasty smell and a battered bowler hat. The Fat Controller was waiting on the platform. He looked. You are right on time and really reliable. Thank you, sir. Ooh, right on time and really reliable, hummed the coaches. But the big engines were not feeling cheerful at all. Where's Percy? He's supposed to fetch our coaches. We get no rest. Oh, whistled Percy, so you've heard the news. I've been shunting special trucks. The Fat Controller needs your help too. Then Gordon and Henry were cross all over again when James got to pull the train away. A little later, the Fat Controller returned. A tunnel is blocked down the line. You must take some workmen to investigate. Pushing trucks, but not for long. It's not rubbish, it's big and alive. I'll ride in the truck and Henry shall push it out. Oh dear, oh dear. Then the trucks, and last of all, a large cross elephant. Oh! Cried the elephant. Poor Henry. That night, he told the other engines all about it. First the rain, then an elephant. Whatever will you be afraid of next? Never mind, Henry. I think you were brave today, and really reliable too. Some troublesome trucks tricked him, and the Great Western engine fell into the turntable well. I'd rather not use them, he puffed to himself. Scruffy, their leader, led the chorus. Hop, go to rally! Be quiet, they ordered. We're sorry, Oliver. It's really my fault, said Oliver sadly. I shouldn't have fallen in the turntable well. Who knows? Sighed Douglas. I've got a plan, Mr. Douglas. May I stay here today and help Mr. Oliver? Soon Toad was explaining his plan. I don't think you should suggest such a thing to Oliver. I meant no disrespect, you understand. Of course not, Toad. Anyway, Driver says the same, and he's arranged it with the station master. Very well, Oliver. Hold back, hold back.
Go it! Yelled Duck. Well done, boy, well done. I'm coming apart.
Rotten wood, rusty frames. Maybe if we put you back together, you'll earn yourself a better name. Nowadays, Oliver only takes the trucks when the other engines are busy. If you play tricks on him, you'll never be the same truck again. And says nothing at all. Toby the tram engine has cow catchers and side plates. Daisy thought Toby's fenders were silly. You're afraid of getting hurt yourself, but I'm not frightened. I'd just toot and they'd all go away. Always run if you toot and look them in the eye. Even bulls. Daisy had never met a bull, but she purred away quite unconcerned while she went by. It's easy, I just toot and they all stand aside. At the next station, a policeman was waiting. There's a bull on the line. Please persuade it to return to the farmer. I'll show Toby how to manage bulls. Ooh, tooted Daisy. Go on. Champion was too busy chomping to take any notice.
How can I look him in the eye if he won't turn around?
Said Champion.
Why doesn't he run away?
Go on, Daisy. Was that. Daisy did no more. Bulls always run away if you toot and look them in the eye, eh, Daisy? Then Toby whooshed loudly. That did the trick. Champion chunted away to join the farmer. Some boys were on the platform. Look, Daisy, one teased, I've got some sweets. They're called bull's eyes. Keep your old bull's eyes. And she scuttled to her shed. One evening, Thomas brought his last train to the junction. Are you on your way to the big station, Thomas? Because I'm going there too. I think something's up. Toby looked at the sky. Bust my buffers, look over there. It's sorry we can't stop. The Fat Controller wants us all together at the station. The Fat Controller has a plan. I have an important letter to read from a little girl who is 5 years old. It seems that there are many girls and boys who would like to meet you. Therefore, we are all going to the big city far away. Hooray! Hooray! Thomas grew more and more excited. Too excited for his own good. I'm glad I'm a splendid engine. The Fat Controller thinks I'm really useful. I whooshed through the tunnel and stopped an inch from the buffers. Just like this, he boasted. But Thomas's front was badly bent. But if they can't mend Thomas in time, we'll have to go to the big city without him. Poor Thomas. Next morning, the engines waited at the junction. Duck had pushed them into place behind Edward. I'll wait one more minute for Thomas, then we have to go. The engines cheered. Look our big city, here we come. And the cavalcade, isn't it wonderful what happiness a letter can bring? Gordon, the big engine, and Thomas the tank engine puffed buffer to buffer back home. And Gordon came to his rescue. Remember, Thomas, united we stand, together we fall. I'll remember, but I hope the Fat Controller forgives us soon. The Fat Controller is going to tell us now. I am honoured to inform you that Her Majesty the Queen herself is coming here to visit us. The engines wondered who would pull the royal train. He'll choose me, of course. You can't climb hills. He will ask me to pull the train. Henry's driver and fireman covered up their cab to keep dry. Henry's smoke blew high into the air. All over Henry. You look like a nice cake, Henry. I must make other arrangements. Please, sir. One at a time, replied the Fat Controller. May Thomas have his branch line again? I think you are both very sorry and deserve a treat. Thomas will look after the coaches, and Gordon will pull the train. All the engines work hard, bringing people to the town. Then Gordon whistled as he approached the station. Everyone knew that sound. Welcome, Mum. 3 cheers for the Queen! Beep, beep! No engines ever felt prouder than those on the Fat Controller's railway. One night, a special load of fish was ordered. The Fat Controller decided that extra vans must be added to the train that the men called the Flying Kipper, as Duck shunted them into position. Thomas puffed by with the mail train. I'd take care if I were you. If fish get into an engine's boiler, they always cause trouble. Good night. Henry grunted dreadfully. You'll just have to put up with it, Henry, said his driver. At least the extra load will mean you can have another engine help us up Gordon's Hill. Duck was waiting at Edward's station so that he could help the heavy train. I need help, please. Duck buffered gently up to Henry's train. Ready? Henry was pulling his train harder than he realized. There's no sign of a tail lamp, he puffed. My train's getting heavier, he thought to himself. I'm slowing down. Then there was trouble. But a strong smell of fish. The Fat Controller spoke kindly to Duck. We should have checked that this tail lamp was fixed on properly. They got me in a right pickle, didn't they? He was wearing a brand new bell that shone like gold. His driver was explaining everything as they puffed along the line. And every year they have a big parade with a special attraction for all the visitors. Just smiles and blows whistles at everyone. He whispered to Toby's driver and turned sadly away. They've run out of room in the parade and don't need a special attraction after all. Percy was shunting in the yard. He didn't expect to see Toby. What are you doing back so soon? Leave these trucks here, please, Percy. There's an emergency at the harbour. This'll be trouble with Bulstrode. He was still surprised about Toby, and now he had 2 puzzles to sort out. Today the barge was more bad-tempered than ever. Why aren't you trucks where you should be? As Percy was lining them up, they burst through some buffers. I'm sinking! Percy watched as Bulstrode was towed to the beach. Long last you'll be useful. When Percy got home, he and Toby exchanged all their news. But driver says that I'm a special attraction anyway, and so are you. All we have to do is smile and blow whistles at everyone. Tom Tipper will collect their post and deliver it safely come rain or shine. He's always ready to help load mailbags onto the trains too. Thank you, Tom, whistles Percy. But where would I be without my van? We make a grand pair. One day, Tom wasn't at the platform. A postman they didn't know dumped the bags on the platform and disappeared. What happened to Tom? And his old van, said his driver. No wonder the new postman looks cross. Next morning, the engines were glad to see Tom back again. Postmaster decided my van was too expensive to run. The rounds take longer on my bike. I can't stop to help you. He was just wondering how this might be done when his thoughts were rudely interrupted. You've got to come back to the Fat Controller's office. He was in a hurry and being careless and rushed away. Percy's driver hadn't seen the bike and he started away. Oh no! Now there'll be trouble. Tom Tipper's bicycle was in pieces. I'm sorry, Mr. Tipper. It wasn't your fault, but now I've only got my legs to get the mail delivered. Next day, he was waiting happily for Percy. My chief decided a new van would do the job. But by accident, as you might say.